listeners, and welcome to episode 72 of the Nigeria Football Weekly podcast with me, your host, Olu Oke. Today is Friday, January 26th, so we are officially just over 24 hours away from Nigeria's big crunch tie against Cameroon in the round of 16 of the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations. In today's episode, I'll be quickly running through our final group game, as well as touching on the other group games that took place in game week 3 of the Africa Cup of Nations, before previewing our heavyweight clash against Cameroon, and then touching on the other round of 16 games for your listening pleasure. Without any further ado, let's get into it. So, what happened on Monday? What day was that? The 22nd of January? Nigeria played our final group game of AFCON. To be honest, I knew we'll win the game, but I assumed we'll finish first in the group. To be fair, Nigeria did finish winners 1-0. We courtesy of an own goal by Opa Sangante in 36th minute after good work by Moses Simon. Osimhen applied pressure on the defender and he was just caught up in two minds and he kicked the ball straight into the back of the net. General summary, good job, routine win. Very profligate in front of goal again. I think that's the biggest story of Nigeria's AFCON so far. Creating chances but missing a lot of our opportunities. In terms of the starting lineup for Nigeria, Jose Peseiro continued with his 3-4-3 formation. Calvin Bassey continued in defense. Semi Ajayi continued in defense too. Kenneth Omero came in for Troost Ekong, who was rested for this game. Ola Aina started and Bright Osai Samuel came in to play on the right wing back position, with Zaidu Sanusi dropping onto the bench and Ola Aina playing left wing back. As I praised Ola Aina in previous episodes, this man could play left back, left wing back, right wing back, and just a very, very versatile player to have in your national team setup. Frank Onyeka continued in the middle of the park. However, we saw Joe Aribo start the game in place of Alex Iwobi, and we saw Lookman drop to the bench for Moses Simon, who started up front alongside Victor Osimhen and Samuel Chukwueze. In terms of key moments through the game, I think Guinea-Bissau actually played relatively well considering their lack of real star quality players. Nwabali was really, really good in defense. The key moments I can remember in the first half, in the first 6th minute, there was a shot straight at Nwabali, slight mistake in defense by Nigeria. Moses Simon had his first wayward cross in the 8th or 9th minute, which is very typical of Moses Simon. Then we had two slight offsides with Bright Osai Samuel straying slightly offside from a great diagonal from Frank Onyeka before Ola Aina crossed the ball for Victor Osimhen, who was slightly offside. In 20th minute, Chukwueze passed the ball to Osimhen, who laid it off nicely for Joe Aribo, but his shot got blocked and there was easy save for the goalkeeper. In the 21st minute, we saw the Guinea-Bissau number 7 player, I can't remember his name. He had a really, really good run at goal, dribbled through about 3 or 4 of our players before firing a tame shot straight at Nwabali. And then in the 36th minute, we finally scored our goal. Moses Simon with the low cross aiming for Victor Osimhen. And as I said, Ope Sangante, number 22, rifled the ball into the net. 49th minute, we also saw Victor Osimhen head wide from Moses Simon cross. And that was pretty much it in terms of the first half bearings. Second half, Moses Simon went through 1-on-1 in the 47th minute. And it got saved by the goalkeeper. So not great in terms of shots. 55th minute, Ola Aina put in a great ball for Victor Osimhen, who headed wide again. We did have a penalty shout in the 57th minute with Bassey being clipped, but it was minimal contact, so they were never going to give that for us. In the 58th minute, Victor Osimhen scored. However, it was disallowed because the ball flipped up and hit his hand. So that was one where we probably would have gone 2 or 3-0 up in this game. We then saw Moses Simon lay off the ball for Iwobi, who shot wide in the 64th minute. And then we saw another big miss from Victor Osimhen in the 77th minute. And that was pretty much it in terms of big chances for the game. 84th minute, again, Zaidu Sanusi scored after an Osimhen shot, but Lookman was offside in the build-up. So all in all, Nigeria could have easily won this game 3 or 4-0. It's one thing to be careful about stats, because although the stats say Nigeria had 11 shots to Guinea-Bissau's 12, and Guinea-Bissau had 5 shots to Nigeria's 1, I've just mentioned 2 opportunities where Nigeria had the ball in the back of the net, but because of offside or hitting Osimhen's hand, those did not count towards the stats. And to be fair, Guinea-Bissau's 5 shots, I think pretty much all of them were straight at Nwabali, with the exception of one of them. So that was it in terms of the state of play for the game. Good performances for Nigeria, Stanley Nwabali. I mean, it's nice to have an assured goalkeeper, isn't it? I don't know what you guys think, but it makes your life much easier as a national football team. So shout out to Stanley Nwabali, keeping yet another clean sheet. 2 clean sheets out of 3. Only conceded 1 goal in the group stage, which was the first goal we conceded to Equatorial Guinea within the first 15 minutes of that game. I thought Olaina was a solid performer yet again, while having to play on the left side of the pitch rather than the right side of the pitch. And Calvin Bassey was assured yet again. There were no real bad performances in my opinion, but in my maybe not so good, maybe not so shit, but not also shit, I would put Victor Osimhen, Moses Simon, and Chukwueze. So all our forward line, yet again, had opportunities to really like crack on and deal with the Guinea-Bissau defense, but that was not something which we saw from either of them. Osimhen especially misfiring again, which is not really what we want to see. However, without him, the own goal does not get stored. So I find it interesting that although Osimhen has missed quite a few chances, I mean, for the whole of AFCON, Nigeria have had 13 big chances, by far the most of any team at AFCON, and yet we've scored 1 goal from open play. So that just tells you what's been going on with us. Our expected goals tally is 6.1. That means based on Opta, we should have 6 goals, and we have only 3. So, you know, for a team that's trying to win a title, we need to be better up front. But one thing must be said is a lot of times tournament football is won with good defenses. And that's another thing I wanted to call out in this game. Nigeria continues to show a very, very impressive defense. We've got two clean sheets. Our expected goals conceded is 1.27, which is the lowest of any side in the tournament. And our defensive organization bodes well for the rest of the tournament, despite our doubts around Jose Pesero's management of the team. One thing that I also wanted to call out, Nigeria continues to struggle to put away smaller teams. Like I've said before on the podcast, if you want to be the Brazils of the world, the Argentinas of the world, the Frances of the world, the Spains of the world, even England, who haven't won anything, but at least they dispatch smaller nations with ease, 4-0, 5-0, 6-0. And until we get to this point, I don't want to hear that there's no small teams in Africa. Yes, the competition has been raised, but when you play certain teams that you're clearly better than on paper, you should be dispatching them with ease. So anyway, hopefully we'll do better as the tournament progresses. Quickly, just to touch on the other games that took place in Game Week 3 of AFCON. I mean, to be honest, the only word I could use for this is it's been pure cinema. Cinema, AFCON, what a tournament. So, while we were beating Guinea-Bissau 1-0, the host Ivory Coast were losing 4-0 to Equatorial Guinea. Yes, you heard that correctly. The host lost 4-0 to Equatorial Guinea in their home AFCON. And then they spent the next 2 days or 3 days biting their nails, hoping they could still qualify. But lucky enough for Ivory Coast, they managed to sneak through to the round of 16 as one of the best third-place teams left in the tournament. After our game in Group A, in Group B, we also saw one hell of a tie. I mean, 2 great games. So Egypt drew with Cape Verde 2-2. Egypt ended up qualifying second after 3 draws. At one point, they were 2-1 up in this game. They scored their second goal was in stoppage time, and they still managed to concede to Cape Verde. Now, as if that was not enough cinema for us, in the other group game in Group B, Mozambique were playing Ghana. Ghana were 2-0 up after scoring 2 penalties up until the 91st minute. And they somehow let Mozambique score a penalty and score an equalizer courtesy of a header from Reinaldo, who plays for Atletico Madrid. He's probably the most recognizable player playing for Mozambique. So, yet again, for another AFCON, Ghana are out in the group stage. And, I mean, Nigeria-Ghana, I don't need to say too much because of our cultural ties, but safe to say a lot of Nigerians enjoyed that one that happened on Monday night. And then on Tuesday night, in the 6 p.m. kickoff games, we saw Senegal dispatch Guinea. It must be said, Senegal have been the best team in the tournament by far. They play like a club side. I mean, the progression between the old heads and the new generation coming through in the Lamine Camaras, Papa Matassa, Ilia Mendiaye, who plays for Marseille, is just seamless. They are playing real AFCON ball, I'm telling you. But in the other group game, Gambia versus Cameroon, it was just pure cinema. Onana was dropped to the bench. It was 1-1. Going into the 85th minute, and then Gambia made it 2-1. So Gambia were on the cusp of qualifying for the round of 16. And then somehow Gambia managed to concede 2 goals in the 87th minute through an own goal. And then in the 92nd minute, Christopher Wu scored a brilliant header from a corner kick to make it 3-2 to the Cameroonians. As if that was not enough, Gambia thought they'd scored an equalizer to make it 3-3. But their striker thought he was Diego Maradona and used his hand. I don't know how he thought he would get away with that in the era of VAR. And then the final big upset of the round of the group stages, in the later kickoffs on Tuesday, we saw Algeria lose 1-0 to Mauritania. Yes, Algeria out for their second consecutive AFCON in the group stages. They have not won a single AFCON game since they won AFCON in 2019 against Senegal. And then surprisingly, Angola topped that group, beating Burkina Faso 2-0. So what that means, on Wednesday, I mean, not every day could be pure cinema. Wednesday was real drab football. Namibia drew 0-0 to Mali. South Africa drew 0-0 to Tunisia. So Tunisia went out after finishing bottom of the group. Basically, all the North African sides, with the exception of Egypt were lucky, but Egypt and Morocco have all found it really tough, which we have come to expect from AFCON tournaments in Sub-Saharan Africa. Also in Group F, Tanzania drew 0-0 with DR Congo, and Zambia lost 1-0 to Morocco, courtesy of a goal from Hakim Ziyech. What this meant was DR Congo finished second with 3 draws from 3 games, and Zambia and Tanzania both bowed out of the tournament, which allowed Ivory Coast to sneak through into the round of 16. So final group standings, qualifiers, Equatorial Guinea finished top of Group A with 7 points, Nigeria also on 7 points, but with an inferior goal difference. In Group B, Cape Verde finished first on 7 points, with Egypt taking the second spot with 3 points. Group C saw Senegal finish first with 9 points, perfect record. Cameroon and Guinea both ended up on 4 points, but Cameroon edged it on goals scored, as both of them had a -1 goal difference. But Guinea also qualified as one of the 3rd best placed teams. Group D, Angola, Burkina Faso. Angola finished first on 7 points, Burkina Faso second on 4, and Mauritania finished third on 3 points. But all 3 teams qualified for the round of 16. Group E, really drab group, to be honest. Mali finished first with 5 points. South Africa qualified in second place, courtesy of their superior goal difference over Namibia, helped by their 4-0 win over their neighbors in Namibia. And Namibia finished third with 4 points. So despite having a -3 goal difference, they still qualified as one of the better 3rd place teams. And in Group F, Morocco topped the group with 7 points, and DR Congo had 3 points. So that's it in terms of all things group stages. And moving on to the big one, Nigeria versus Cameroon. Tomorrow night, Saturday, 9 p.m. Nigeria time, 8 p.m. in the UK. And if you're listening from anywhere else in the world, do the maths based on the time difference. Now, it must be said, Cameroon is by far, in my opinion, Nigeria's biggest rivals, footballing-wise. Yes, we can say Ghana are second because of the cultural links as well. But in terms of football, I would say our neighbors to the right of our country, Cameroon, are our biggest rivals. One thing that is interesting, though, is when you look at the head-to-head games between Nigeria and Cameroon, we've played each other 25 times. Nigeria have won 12 times, and there have been 8 draws. Cameroon have only beaten us 5 times. But the problem is 4 of those 5 wins have come in crucial moments when it's absolutely meant everything. 3 of those wins have come in AFCON finals alone. So Cameroon have beaten us, out of their 5 trophies, they've beaten us 3 times in the final to win the Africa Cup of Nations. The first time was in 1984 when we still had the likes of Shego Odigbami, and we lost 3-1 to them in Abidjan, ironically, which is where AFCON is currently being taken place. We went ahead in that game but conceded 3 goals. And then in 1988, in the AFCON final in Morocco, I believe, we lost 1-0 courtesy of a penalty from Cameroon. And everybody, I'm sure listening to this, remembers the AFCON in 2000 in Nigeria. We drew 2-2 after extra time. We came down from 2-0, but we lost 4-3 on penalties with Kanu and Ikpeba missing penalties. Although we know that if VAR was around, Ikpeba's penalty would have stood. The irony is Rigobert Song scored the winning goal, the winning penalty in that AFCON final. And he is, of course, now the manager of Cameroon, with Samuel Eto'o also playing in that game. Also, we missed out on 1990 World Cup qualifying, losing 1-0 to Cameroon in August 1989. So safe to say we've been the overwhelmingly dominant team in this rivalry, but the 5 times Cameroon have won apart from the friendly game in 2021 when they beat us 1-0, all the other 4 wins have come in very, very crucial and important games. So that's the tale of the tape. On a positive note, the last time we did play them competitively was in the 2019 round of 16 AFCON, where we beat them 3-2, courtesy of a brace from Odionigalo and Alex Iwobi scoring the winning goal. So let's keep the positive elements, and hopefully we could come through on Saturday. Anticipated XI for the game, I expect Jose Becerra to stick with a 3-4-3. We will see Nwabali in goal for sure. I expect Ajayi and Basi to definitely start, and I'm sure Trust Ekong will come in for Omero. Ola Aina and probably Zedu Sanusi will continue on the wings, although we may see Osai Samuel start on the right. I expect Frank Riega to continue starting in the center of the park, alongside Alassane Yusuf, who we know is now back in training. However, we may see Alex Iwobi also start, so look out for that one. And then up top, Lookman is definitely going to come back into the team. I expect Moses Simon to start ahead of Chukwueze, who's not had a great tournament so far. And of course, Victor Osimhen will start up front for us. For our opponents, Cameroon, Onana is going to be dropped to the bench as he's only played in 1 game so far. Fabrice Ondoa, his cousin and the goalkeeper who was in goal when Cameroon won the AFCON in 2017, will keep his place. We'll see Tolo, Christopher Wu, and Castelletto start in defense. They will also play with the 3-4-3. Andre Anguissa and Encham will probably line up in the middle. They've got a player called Chato and Yongwa, who will play as their wing backs, and then we'll see George Nkudu play as a left winger. You remember him from his Tottenham days. And Toko Ekambi will probably start on the right wing, with Magri starting as the centre forward. What are my score predictions? It's going to be a very, 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 very tough game, because when rivalries happen, form goes out the window. But I expect us to beat Cameroon 2-1. It's time for Victor Osimhen to stop being profligate and to take some of these chances. Big moments, big players, we need them for the big moments. So hoping to see more of that from Victor Osimhen. Key storylines from the game: defensive solidity. Let's carry on what we've been seeing in the group stages into that game. As I've said already, our decision making and how well we're able to take our chances is literally what's going to take us to the next round. And we have to manage the occasion and the nerves. Last AFCON, I'm sure Nigerians remember, we won 3 out of 3 group games, then played Tunisia. Just after halftime, we found ourselves 1-0 down after a Maduka Okoye error, which for some reason I don't know why people have not forgiven him for. But we have to manage the occasion. We have to manage the occasion. So that's it for Nigeria versus Cameroon. And then just to round up the podcast, speaking on the other round of 16 ties, well, one thing to also mention, if Nigeria progress, we will be playing the winner of the Angola versus the Namibia round of 16 game, which is also taking place tomorrow at 6 p.m. Nigeria time. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or a genius to say that if one of Nigeria or Cameroon get to play Angola or Namibia, you will be heavy favorites for that fixture. So I don't want us to think too far ahead, but we have to win that game. So who do I think will win between Angola and Namibia? Angola have been very impressive so far. So I expect Angola to beat Namibia. Namibia won their first game against Tunisia 1-0, but they've really struggled since that game, to be honest. So let's see, but I will be predicting an Angola win on penalties, it must be said. On Sunday, we see Equatorial Guinea, who've been very impressive, play against Guinea. So the Battle of the Guineas. I think Equatorial Guinea will take on their good form and win this game 2-1. And then in the evening fixture, we see Egypt play DR Congo. Egypt are sneaky bad, and I'm telling you, they play better without Mo Salah. So I'm expecting them to have too much for DR Congo. This is a very interesting tie because both teams, Egypt and DR Congo, have drawn all 3 of their games in AFCON. So imagine they're in the round of 16, and whoever wins that game will finally have their first win of the tournament. So that's very, very interesting. And then on Monday, Cape Verde play Mauritania. I expect Cape Verde to win this game 3-1. And then Ivory Coast, after sneaking into the round of 16, have been rewarded with a tie with the best team in the tournament, Senegal. I expect Senegal to make light work of them. Yes, it will be tough because it's round of 16, but Senegal have looked very impressive, and I expect them to win this game 3-1. And then finally on Tuesday, to round off the round of 16 ties, Mali will play Burkina Faso at 6 p.m. I expect Mali to win on penalties, but I will not be surprised if Burkina Faso win either. And then Morocco face off South Africa. This is going to be a much tougher game than people are realizing or predicting. I think Morocco will win in extra time or penalties. And this primarily because South Africa have very good organization and they play a lot of them. I think 7 of their starting 11 all play for Mamelodi Sundowns. So they have that chemistry, almost like a club side. So watch out for that one. We know an upset's going to come. I know my predictions make it seem like no upset is going to happen, but we know AFCON ball. 1 or 2 are coming. Let's just hope Nigeria's not one of them. And hopefully we see our country flourish and soar like the Super Eagles they are tomorrow. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks again for rocking with me. I really appreciate all the love and all the support. Remember to follow us on all our social media channels. Nigeria Football Weekly everywhere except on Twitter when it's at NFWPOD. Shout out to our YouTube as well, where Nigeria Football Weekly. You can find us on there. Thanks again. I'll be doing a podcast after the Nigeria Cameroon game. Hopefully it will be a positive one. And I'll catch you on Tuesday or Monday when I record the podcast. Take care, enjoy the game, and Nigeria Victor Osimhen, it's time to rise. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to get a notification whenever we drop a video. You can also find our social media channels listed below. And of course, up Super Eagles and Nigeria, they ever carry last.